I never thought I'd become the kind of guy who checks his wife's social media like it's a stock ticker. But there I was, scrolling through another one of her posts about empowerment and finding yourself. This one had a picture of a coffee cup with some quote about authentic connections. 43 likes in 20 minutes. My wife started therapy about 4 months ago. Nothing unusual about that. Plenty of people see therapists. What got my attention was how quickly things changed. At first, she'd come home from her Tuesday and Thursday sessions talking about breathing exercises and journaling. Standard stuff. Then the sessions moved from his office to his house. More comfortable, she said. More private. I'm not the jealous type. Never have been. But when your wife starts having 2-hour sessions at another man's house and comes back glowing like she just won the lottery, you notice. When she starts talking about soul connections and energy alignments, you definitely notice. Last Tuesday, I made the mistake of mentioning it. We were in the kitchen, and she was getting ready to head out for another session. I kept my tone casual, just asked if maybe she'd consider seeing someone else, or at least going back to regular office visits. She stopped mid-step and turned to look at me like I'd just suggested she quit breathing. Are you serious right now? You're really going to do this? I tried to explain. I wasn't comfortable with the setup. The house sessions, the increasing frequency, the way she talked about this guy like he was some kind of spiritual guide instead of a licensed professional. She cut me off. This is exactly what Dr. Whitman warned me about. The control, the insecurity. This is textbook patriarchal behavior. Dr. Whitman. She said his name the way people talk about celebrities. 3 months ago, I didn't even know therapists had first names to their patients. That night, she posted on social media. I was lying in bed when my phone lit up with notifications. People were tagging me. The post read, "Patriarchy means men thinking they own you. It means being questioned for having healthy, professional relationships because your partner can't handle you growing as a person. I refuse to shrink myself anymore." 200 likes. 57 comments. Most of them from her friends agreeing, calling me controlling without using my name. A few from people I knew, asking if everything was okay. I sat there in the dark, reading through the comments. My wife was in the bathroom, probably refreshing the post to watch the support roll in. Something clicked in my head. Not anger, exactly. More like clarity. She wanted to have this conversation publicly. She wanted to frame me as the problem while she had private sessions with Dr. Whitman at his house. Fine. But we were going to play this game by very different rules than she expected. I didn't respond to the post. Didn't argue. Didn't defend myself. When she came back to bed, I was already facing the wall, eyes closed. She probably thought I was sulking. I wasn't. I was thinking. By morning, I knew exactly what I needed to do. While she slept in, I got dressed quietly and left the house. I had some phone calls to make, research to do, plans to set in motion. The thing about playing chess is that you don't announce your moves. You make them. And if your opponent is too busy celebrating their last play to notice what you're doing, well, that's their mistake. She had her Thursday session scheduled for tomorrow. Dr. Whitman's house, naturally. 2 hours blocked off on her calendar, which she'd started sharing with me weeks ago as proof of transparency. I found that detail particularly helpful. I spent Wednesday morning in a small office downtown, across from a man with 30 years of experience in family law. Spent the afternoon making some other calls, sending some emails, gathering some very specific documentation. By evening, everything was set. Thursday morning, she kissed me goodbye before heading out. Told me the session might run a little long. I nodded, told her to take her time. She smiled, probably relieved I wasn't making it difficult. I waited until her car turned the corner. Then I made a phone call. Then another. By noon, the wheels were already turning. By evening, when she walked back through that door for the last time, her whole world was about to shift. But she didn't know that yet. She was probably sitting in Dr. Whitman's house right now, talking about boundaries and growth and authentic living. Meanwhile, I was home, calm as still water, watching the clock. Sometimes the strongest move is silence. And I was about to show her just how loud silence can be. The lawyer's name was Richard Sawyer. No fancy downtown office with marble floors. Just a practical space in a business complex near the highway, the kind of place where people go to handle serious problems without theatrics. His paralegal offered me coffee. I declined. This wasn't a social visit. Sawyer looked at the screenshots I'd brought, the social media posts, the calendar showing the frequency of sessions, the fact that these sessions happened at Dr. Whitman's private residence, not a licensed office space. He didn't react much, just nodded and took notes. How long has this been going on, he asked. For months. But the house session started about 6 weeks ago. He tapped his pen against the notepad. And you've expressed concern about this arrangement? Once. Tuesday night. That's when she made the post calling me controlling. Sawyer pulled up something on his computer, typed for a minute, then turned the screen toward me. It was the website for the state licensing board. Therapists are required to maintain professional boundaries. Sessions in private residences fall into a gray area, but combined with the frequency and the nature of your wife's posts about this connection, there's definitely grounds for an inquiry. I'd already looked into this. Spent Tuesday night after her post reading through ethics guidelines and professional standards. Dr. Whitman wasn't technically breaking any laws by having sessions at his house, but he was walking a very thin line. And from what I could find about him online, he'd had complaints before. Nothing that stuck, but smoke usually means fire. I want to file for divorce, I said, and I want to move quickly. Sawyer leaned back in his chair. How quickly? I'm thinking 48 hours. He raised an eyebrow. That was the most emotion he'd shown since I walked in. That's aggressive. You sure about this? No counseling, no trial separation. I thought about her post, about the comments from her friends, about how she'd looked at me in the kitchen when I raised concerns, like I was some obstacle to her enlightenment instead of her husband of 7 years. I'm sure. Over the next hour, we mapped it out. Filing procedures, asset protection, temporary restraints on joint accounts, all perfectly legal when filing for divorce. Sawyer explained everything in clear terms. No drama, no moral judgments. Just the mechanics of untangling a marriage. One more thing, I said as we wrapped up. I need to report Dr. Whitman to the licensing board. Sawyer nodded slowly. I can't advise you on that officially, but I can tell you that if you believe there's been an ethics violation, you have the right to file a complaint. They take these things seriously, especially when there's a pattern. I left his office with paperwork to sign and a timeline. Friday afternoon, everything would be filed. By Saturday morning, it would be done. Thursday evening, my wife came home at 8. 3 hours for a therapy session. She was in a good mood, humming while she made tea. I was on the couch, watching a game I wasn't paying attention to. How was your day? She asked, not looking at me. Fine. Productive. She smiled at that, probably thinking I'd spent the day reflecting on my controlling behavior or whatever narrative she'd built. I'm glad. Dr. Whitman and I had a breakthrough today about boundaries and authentic self. That's great, I said. My voice was even, almost pleasant. I'm happy you're finding what you need. She looked surprised, maybe even a little disappointed that I wasn't pushing back. I appreciate you saying that. I know this has been hard for you. Hard. Like I was struggling with her personal growth instead of watching my marriage dissolve into whatever this was. But I just nodded and turned back to the TV. She went upstairs. I heard the shower run, then the hairdryer. Normal evening routine. She had no idea that in less than 24 hours, normal would be a memory. Friday morning, I woke up early. She was still asleep, her phone charging on the nightstand. I got dressed quietly, grabbed my laptop bag and the folder of documents I'd prepared. Left the house at 6:30. By 9, I was back in Sawyer's office, signing papers. By 10, everything was filed with the court. By 11, I was at the bank, handling the financial protections. By noon, I'd made another call, this one to the state licensing board. I kept my tone factual, professional. Just laid out the timeline, the frequency, the boundary issues. Attached the screenshots and documentation. Let the facts speak. By 1, I was meeting with the moving company I'd hired. They'd come tomorrow morning, Saturday, while she was at another session. Yes, Dr. Whitman apparently did weekend appointments now. How convenient. By 3, I was sitting in my car outside a storage facility where most of my things would go temporarily. I'd figured out the next steps, where I'd stay, what I'd need. Everything mapped out. My phone buzzed. A text from my wife, getting groceries. Need anything? I typed back. No thanks. I'm good. And I was. Better than I'd been in months, actually. There's something clarifying about action. About knowing exactly what you're doing and why. Tomorrow morning, while she was discovering her authentic self with Dr. Whitman, I'd be loading boxes. By the time she got home, I'd be gone. The house would be empty. The accounts would be frozen. And Dr. Whitman would be getting a very official letter about an investigation into his professional conduct. She thought silence meant acceptance. She was about to learn the difference between silence and strategy. Saturday morning arrived like any other weekend. She left at 9 for her session with Dr. Whitman, kissed my cheek on the way out, told me she'd be back around noon. I watched her pull out of the driveway, waited 5 minutes, then made the call. The moving truck arrived at 9:30. 3 guys, efficient and professional. I'd already packed most of my things during the week while she was out. Clothes, books, electronics, personal items. Everything that mattered to me was ready to go. Master bedroom, leave everything on the left side of the closet, I told the crew leader. Bathroom, only the items I marked. Living room, nothing from the entertainment center. They worked fast. Box after box went out the door. My desk from the spare bedroom. The gaming setup. My grandfather's old chair from the den. The photos from my side of the family. I wasn't taking anything that was hers or anything we'd bought together. Just what was mine before the marriage and what I'd purchased separately. By 11, the truck was loaded. The house looked strange, like someone had carefully removed every trace of me while leaving everything else untouched. Her furniture, her decorations, her life, still perfectly in place. Just emptier now. I did one final walkthrough. The kitchen table, where we used to eat breakfast together before her Thursday sessions became more important. The couch where we'd watched movies, back when she still sat next to me instead of scrolling through comments on her enlightenment posts. The bedroom where I'd spent the last 2 months sleeping next to someone who felt like a stranger. On the kitchen table, I placed a single manila envelope. Inside were copies of the divorce filing, the court case number, and contact information for Sawyer's office. No note, no explanation. The document said everything that needed saying. I locked the door behind me for the last time and handed my key to the crew leader. Storage facility on Westbrook. I'll meet you there. The storage unit was climate-controlled, mid-sized. Everything fit with room to spare. I'd already set up a short-term rental, a furnished place across town. Nothing fancy, just functional. A place to regroup while the legal process played out. By noon, I was in my new temporary space, unpacking the essentials. My phone stayed silent. She was probably still at Dr. Whitman's, talking about consciousness and healing and whatever other concepts they'd convinced themselves were professional therapy. My phone buzzed at 12:45. Her name on the screen. I let it ring through to voicemail. Then another call. Another voicemail. Then texts started coming through. Where are you? What's going on? Why is the house like this? Call me now. I set the phone face down on the counter and made myself lunch. Turkey sandwich, chips, water. Ate slowly, calmly. The phone kept buzzing against the granite. I ignored it. At 2, my lawyer called. Just got a very angry voicemail from opposing party. I take it she found the papers? Seems that way. She's threatening to contest everything. Says you abandoned the marital home. That this is all a misunderstanding. That she wants to talk. Sawyer's tone was dry, professional. I told her all communication goes through me now. She didn't take that well. I figured. Also, the licensing board contacted me. They want to confirm some details about your complaint. They're moving on it faster than I expected. Apparently, Dr. Whitman has had 3 other complaints in the past 18 months. Yours was the tipping point. I felt something then. Not satisfaction exactly. More like validation. My instincts had been correct. This wasn't about jealousy or control. This was about a professional who'd crossed lines before and was doing it again. What happens next? I asked. They'll open a formal investigation. He'll be notified within 48 hours. Usually suspends practice pending review. Could take months to resolve, but given the pattern, I'd say his license is in genuine jeopardy. We talked logistics for a few more minutes, then hung up. My phone had 17 missed calls now, 12 texts, 2 voicemails. I didn't check any of them. At 4, she tried a different approach. An email. Subject line. Please, we need to talk. I deleted it without opening. At 6, my brother called. Dude, what's happening? Rachel just called mom crying, saying you abandoned her and cleaned out the house. Rachel, my wife's name. Funny how I'd been avoiding even thinking it. Like she'd become just a problem to solve instead of a person I'd once loved. I filed for divorce, I said simply. She'll get her half of everything in the settlement. I only took what was mine. She's saying this is all a huge misunderstanding. That you're upset about her therapy. It's not a misunderstanding. And yeah, I had concerns about her therapy situation. Concerns she posted about online while calling me controlling. I decided I was done being concerned. My brother was quiet for a moment. Man, this seems fast. It's been 4 months coming. I just made the decision quickly. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet of my new place. No TV, no noise, just silence. The kind of silence I'd been living in anyway, even when she was in the same room. At least now the silence was honest. My phone buzzed again. Another text from her. The bank froze our accounts. I can't access anything. This is illegal. I almost laughed. Almost. Sawyer had explained this to me carefully. Temporary restraints during divorce proceedings. Completely legal. Designed to prevent either party from draining assets. She'd have access again once things were properly divided. She just didn't like not having control for once. I typed back, my first response all day. All communication through my attorney. His contact info was in the envelope. Then I blocked her number. Blocked her on social media. Blocked her email. Clean break. No exceptions. Tomorrow, Dr. Whitman would probably get his notification. Monday, the investigation would begin in earnest. And through it all, I'd be here, in this quiet space, rebuilding what I should have started rebuilding months ago. She wanted growth and authenticity? Fine. I'd show her what genuine change looked like. And it started with walking away from people who confused enlightenment with disrespect. Monday morning, I got the call I'd been expecting. Sawyer sounded almost amused, which was unusual for him. Dr. Whitman's attorney contacted me. Apparently, the licensing board showed up at his office this morning. Full investigation. They've suspended his ability to see patients pending review. That was fast. Like I said, yours wasn't the first complaint. It was just the one with the most documentation. They take patterns seriously, especially when there's evidence of boundary violations with multiple clients. I poured myself coffee, looking out the window of my rental. How's that affecting my situation? She's panicking. Her lawyer called mine 3 times this morning. They want to negotiate, want to talk settlement, want to speed this up. Apparently, Dr. Whitman isn't returning her calls either. Of course he wasn't. The man was facing the loss of his professional license. The last thing he needed was continued contact with the patient whose husband had triggered the investigation. Whatever soul connection they thought they had, it evaporated the moment his career was on the line. What did you tell them? That we proceed through normal channels. Discovery, asset division, the usual timeline. No special treatment. After we hung up, I checked my blocked messages out of curiosity. She'd tried reaching me through her sister's phone, her best friend's phone, even created a new email address. All the same message. We needed to talk. This was all a mistake. I was overreacting. Overreacting. The woman who posted about patriarchy because I expressed concern was now calling me overdramatic for following through with consequences. Tuesday afternoon, my brother called again. Mom talked to Rachel's parents. They're pretty upset. About what specifically? They think you're being cruel. That you should at least hear her out. That marriages are worth fighting for. I set down the tool I'd been using to assemble a bookshelf. Did they know she was having private sessions at another man's house twice a week? That when I mentioned being uncomfortable with it, she publicly called me controlling? Silence on the other end. Didn't think so, I continued. People love to have opinions about situations they don't fully understand. She told them you were jealous of her therapy progress. She can tell them whatever she wants. The court documents tell a different story. So do the screenshots of her posts. So does the licensing board investigation. My brother sighed. You've really thought this through, haven't you? I had plenty of time to think while she was at those sessions. Wednesday brought more developments. Sawyer forwarded me an email chain. Apparently, 2 other former patients of Dr. Whitman had come forward after learning about the investigation. Both women, both similar stories. Sessions that started professionally, then gradually shifted to his home. Conversations that crossed therapeutic boundaries. One of them had actually filed a complaint 2 years ago, but it had been dismissed due to lack of evidence. Now there was plenty of evidence. A pattern spanning years. The board wasn't just investigating anymore. They were building a case. Thursday evening, exactly 1 week after I'd moved out, I got a message from Rachel's mother through my own mom. Could we please talk? Rachel was devastated. She'd made mistakes, but wanted to work on the marriage. I called my mother directly. Tell them no. Tell them I'm done having this conversation through intermediaries. If Rachel wants to communicate, she knows the process. Through the lawyers. Honey, she's really struggling. She can't access money. She's alone in that house. And now this therapist situation has blown up in her face. The accounts are temporarily frozen during divorce proceedings. That's standard. She'll get her fair share. And as for the therapist situation, that's not my problem. She chose to ignore my concerns and make me the villain. Now she gets to face the consequences without me there to blame. My mother was quiet for a moment. You sound different. I feel different. Clearer. Friday afternoon, I got an update from Sawyer that changed everything. Dr. Whitman lost his license. Emergency suspension turned into revocation. The board found sufficient evidence of a pattern of violations. He's done. That was faster than expected. The other complaints helped. Once they dug in, they found more issues. Improper record keeping, boundary violations with at least 4 patients over 3 years. Your wife was just the most recent. I absorbed this. A man had lost his career. Part of me wanted to feel guilty about that. But then I remembered the guidelines he'd sworn to uphold, the trust he'd violated, the marriages he'd probably damaged before mine. What about Rachel? She knows. Her lawyer informed her this morning. Apparently, she tried to contact Dr. Whitman yesterday and found out his practice was closed. She's not handling it well. That evening, I sat in my rental and thought about the last week. 7 days ago, I'd been lying in bed next to someone who thought I was the problem. Someone who'd convinced herself that my concerns were about control instead of legitimate worry. Someone who'd chosen to publicly humiliate me rather than have an honest conversation. Now she was alone in that house, probably scrolling through old posts about empowerment and authenticity, wondering how everything had fallen apart so quickly. Dr. Whitman was done, his career over, his credibility destroyed. And I was here, in this quiet space, feeling more at peace than I had in months. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Please, I know I messed up. Can we just talk? 5 minutes. I stared at it for a long moment. Thought about what 5 minutes of conversation would accomplish. She'd apologize, probably. Say she'd been confused, that Dr. Whitman had manipulated her, that she wanted to fix things. But she'd had months to have that conversation. She'd chosen posts and sessions instead. She'd chosen public humiliation over private discussion. She'd chosen a fantasy over her marriage. I deleted the message and put my phone on silent. Some bridges aren't worth rebuilding. Some decisions are final. And some silences are the only response worth giving. Tomorrow was Saturday. 1 week since I'd moved out. 1 week since she'd come home to an empty house and a manila envelope. 1 week since her world had started unraveling. And I'd never slept better. 3 weeks after I'd walked out. The divorce proceedings were moving forward exactly as planned. Sawyer had everything organized, documented, categorized. Rachel's attorney kept pushing for mediation, for a chance to discuss things face to face. We declined every time. She's getting desperate, Sawyer told me during one of our weekly calls. Her lawyer mentioned she's been applying for jobs. Turns out she hasn't worked in 2 years, and her resume has some gaps that employers are questioning. I'd forgotten about that. She'd quit her marketing job 18 months ago, said she needed time to focus on herself. I'd supported the decision, taken on extra projects to cover the difference. Funny how self-discovery gets expensive when someone else is paying for it. Any movement on the asset division? She wants the house. Her attorney is arguing that since you left voluntarily, she should retain primary residence. I almost laughed. I left because I filed for divorce. The house is jointly owned. She can buy out my half if she wants it that badly. That's what I told them. They didn't like the answer. The following week, something interesting happened. I ran into one of Rachel's friends at the gym. Brittany, I think her name was. She'd been one of the enthusiastic commenters on that Patriarchy post. She saw me, hesitated, then walked over. Can we talk for a second? I wiped down the machine I'd been using. Sure. Look, I know things are messy right now, but Rachel is really struggling. She made mistakes, but she's hurting. Okay. Brittany seemed thrown by my neutral response. That's it. Just okay. What do you want me to say? That I'll come back? That will fix this. I grabbed my water bottle. She had months to talk to me. She chose social media posts instead. Now she gets to hurt on her own time. That's cold. No, Cole would be doing what she did. Making your husband out to be controlling because he had legitimate concerns. I'm just following through with the consequences, she set in motion. Brittany opened her mouth, then closed it. I'd seen Rachel do that same thing 100 times. Funny how people who talk about boundaries don't like it when someone actually enforces them. For what it's worth, I added, you might want to check in on her more often, because I'm not doing it anymore. I left her standing there and finished my workout in peace. By week 5, The investigation into Dr. Whitman had become semi-public. Nothing officially released, but word travels in professional circles. Turns out he'd had a reputation for years. Colleagues had suspected, clients had whispered, but nothing stuck until the pattern became undeniable. Rachel's name never came up publicly, which I appreciated. Whatever else had happened, I didn't want her dragged through that mud. The divorce was enough. Sawyer called me on a Friday afternoon with news. They're ready to settle. She'll take a cash payout instead of fighting for the house. Wants this done quickly. What changed? Between you and me? I think reality set in. She can't afford the house on her own, can't get approved for a mortgage to buy you out, and the longer this drags out, the more it costs her in legal fees. Plus, I suspect she wants this over before more details about Dr. Whitman come out. What's the offer? He walked me through the numbers. Fair split of assets, clean break, no ongoing entanglements. I'd keep the house. She'd take her share in liquid assets. Separate completely within 60 days. Take it, I said. You sure? We could probably negotiate for more. I don't want more. I want done. The paperwork was finalized 2 weeks later. 7 weeks, start to finish. Not the fastest divorce on record, but faster than most. Turned out when both parties wanted out, things moved quickly. The day we signed the final documents, I didn't see Rachel. Everything was handled through lawyers, signed remotely, processed efficiently. Clinical, impersonal, exactly how it needed to be. That evening, I sat in the house that was now entirely mine. Our house. My house. Just mine now. I need to change some things, make it feel different. But for now, it was enough to know that this chapter was closed. My phone buzzed. A message from my mother. Rachel's parents told us she's moving to Portland. Fresh start, apparently. Portland. Other side of the country. Good. Distance would make the finality clear for both of us. I didn't respond to my mother's text. Just set the phone down and looked around the living room. The empty spaces where my things had been were filled now. New furniture, different arrangement. I'd spent the last month slowly reclaiming the space, making it mine again. The storage unit was empty. My rental was surrendered. I was back home, but it was a different home now. A better one. 2 months after I'd left that manila envelope on the kitchen table, I was single, settled, and sleeping through the night without waking up wondering what post she'd make next or what boundaries she'd cross tomorrow. I'd heard through mutual friends that Dr. Whitman was working at some wellness center in Colorado now. Not as a therapist, couldn't be, but as a life coach or spiritual advisor or whatever title people use when they can't practice their actual profession anymore. Apparently, some people never learn. And Rachel? Last I heard, she'd found a job in Portland. Something in social media management, ironically. Maybe she'd finally found an authentic outlet for all that posting. I didn't follow her on anything, didn't check up, didn't care. She was a chapter in my history now, not my present. And that was exactly how it should be. The silence I'd started with that Thursday morning 7 weeks ago had become permanent. And it turned out silence wasn't just a strategy. It was peace. 6 months later, I was sitting at a bar downtown with some colleagues after work. We'd just closed a major project, and the team was celebrating. Good people, good conversation, the kind of evening that reminds you life moves forward. A woman approached our table. Took me a second to recognize her. One of Rachel's friends from that book club she used to attend. Not Brittany, someone else. She looked uncomfortable. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, she said quietly, about the comments I made on that post. We didn't know the whole story. I nodded. Water under the bridge. Rachel told us recently what actually happened. With the therapist, the investigation, everything. She said you tried to warn her and she wouldn't listen. She say anything else? That you were right. That she confused attention with connection, and by the time she figured it out, you were already gone. She hesitated. She's doing okay now, if you were wondering. Therapy, genuine therapy this time. Working on herself. That's good. I mean that. She left, and my coworker raised an eyebrow. Ex-wife situation, ancient history, and it was. I'd rebuilt everything that mattered. Better job, better routines, better peace of mind. Started seeing someone new a few months back, taking it slow, doing it right this time. No rush, no drama, just honest communication and mutual respect. The house felt like mine now. I'd renovated the spare bedroom, updated the kitchen, changed enough that the memories didn't haunt the corners anymore. Some nights I'd sit on the back porch with a drink and think about how close I'd come to wasting years trying to fix something that was already broken. The best decision I ever made was choosing silence over argument that Thursday morning. Not engaging, not defending, not explaining. Just acting, filing the papers, making the calls, executing the plan while she was busy discovering herself with someone who turned out to be as fake as the connection they'd invented. Dr. Whitman lost everything because he couldn't maintain professional boundaries. Rachel lost her marriage because she valued validation over partnership. And me? I lost some time and learned a valuable lesson. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. When someone makes you the villain for having standards, let them write that story alone. And when you know it's time to go, don't announce it. Don't debate it. Don't give them a chance to talk you out of it. Just go. I finished my drink, laughed at someone's joke about the project, and checked my phone. Text from the woman I'd been seeing. Dinner tomorrow? My place. I smiled and typed back. Sounds perfect. Life after Rachel wasn't just good. It was better, and I'd never once looked back.